He told me I was too emotional, too ambitious, too loud, then married a woman just like me, only 10 years younger. He said I was intense. He said it with a sigh, like it was a burden. Too passionate, too loud, too opinionated, too ambitious. For a long time, his words were a confusing cocktail of criticism and affection because he stayed. His presence was a silent promise I mistook for acceptance. I thought that was love. His name was Darius. We met at a tech summit where I was on stage presenting a startup pitch my entire life was poured into. Afterwards, he approached me, his eyes lit with what I now see as fascination, not admiration. He told me he was drawn to my confidence, that my energy was magnetic. He loved the fire, or so he said. But then he started a project. That project was me. He became a sculptor, and I was the clay, not realizing he was chipping away at my very essence. And I, so desperate to be loved, started to let him. I called it a compromise. It wasn't until he left, and I saw who he chose next, that I understood the devastating truth. He didn't want the woman he met. He wanted to build a version of me he could control. In the beginning, my fire was what drew him in. I would talk for hours about my startup, my 5-year plan, and my frustrations, and I thought he was listening. Now I see he was gathering data, learning which switches to flip to dim my lights. The change was gradual. My passion became intensity. My opinions became a lot to handle. It started with quiet suggestions. Maybe let someone else have the floor tonight, he'd murmur. It's okay to just be soft, you know? It's beautiful. So I softened. The professional sacrifices came first. I landed a keynote speech at a major conference. Instead of celebrating, he sighed about how much I worked. I ended up suggesting a male colleague take the spot. He praised me for being a team player. I started downplaying my victories, framing my successes as luck. I was erasing my achievements to soothe his insecurity. The personal sacrifices followed. I traded the bold, bright colors I loved for neutrals. I learned to laugh quietly. I learned to apologize for taking up space. He praised me for it, and I mistook his approval for validation. I wasn't growing, I was erasing myself, page by page. I was so busy trying to be the right person for him, I never stopped to ask if he was the right person for me. The end didn't come with a bang. He just evaporated. He sat me down on the edge of our bed and told me it wasn't working. The words were sterile. He said he needed someone simpler, quieter, less demanding. It was a verdict on my very character. I spiraled, convinced the fault was entirely mine. Was I truly too much? His voice had moved into my head and become my own worst critic. The weeks that followed were a blur of therapy and obsessive journaling, trying to find the broken part that had driven him away. Then, about a year later, the bombshell landed, delivered silently through Instagram. I saw the wedding photos. He married someone who looked like a younger echo of me. Same ambitious glint in her eyes, same energetic smile. And as I scrolled, my breath caught. She was the founder of a promising new company, just as I was when we met, except she was 10 years younger. The air vanished from my lungs. A cold, sharp clarity pierced the fog of my self-blame. It all clicked into place. He didn't want my light. He wanted to be the one to turn the dimmer switch. The problem wasn't that I was too much. The problem was that I had learned my own worth and had started to resist the final stages of my erasure. I had outgrown his control. He had to start over with new raw materials, someone still young enough to believe his control was love. At first, the realization just twisted the knife. Then, a volcanic anger erupted. I was angry at him for his masterful, insidious emotional gaslighting, but I was also incandescently angry at myself for participating in my own silencing, for believing the lie that a strong woman had to soften herself to be worthy of a man's love. After the anger burned out, I chose quiet healing. I replayed our history with a new lens. I finally understood that when he said I was too much, it was never a diagnosis of my flaws. It was a confession of his own limits. It was his way of saying, your existence requires more security and strength than I possess. The moment I stopped shrinking, he left to find someone else still impressionable enough to shape. That single thought was a lifeline. I looked back at our relationship with clear eyes. I saw every dinner party where I bit my tongue, every opportunity I let slide. I realized that for years, I had been auditioning for a part that was never meant for me. Healing began the moment I stopped looking for my worth in his hands and started meticulously building it for myself. The first step was small. I called a friend. He had called dramatic, and we laughed loudly for 2 hours. I bought a ridiculously bright yellow coat. I started mentoring younger female founders. I threw myself back into my work, not with frantic energy, but with focused purpose. I built my second company on my own unapologetic terms. I started speaking louder again, reclaiming all the vibrant, messy, intense parts of myself I had filed down for him. And the funny part? I see him watching. He follows me silently on my professional social media accounts. He likes the posts celebrating my company's new funding round, the articles I'm featured in, the photos of me on stage, the very things that once made him so uncomfortable. Just a quiet, ghost-like presence in the audience of my life. There was a time when seeing his name pop up would have made my heart race. Now I feel a profound and peaceful indifference. Healing isn't always a grand confrontation. Sometimes it's the quiet, revolutionary act of choosing yourself. My muchness wasn't a bug. It was my entire operating system. It was my superpower. My big emotions mean I love with my whole heart. My passion is the fuel for my ambition. These were never flaws. They were, and are, the very best parts of me. I share this story because I know someone out there is shrinking, softening your voice, hiding your brilliance to be more palatable, to be loved. If that's you, I see you. Let this be your reminder. You do not have to compress your soul to fit into someone else's idea of enough. The painful but liberating lesson is that sometimes the people who say you are too much are simply not enough for you. Their criticism is a mirror reflecting their limitations, not your excess. True love doesn't ask you to be smaller. It meets you exactly where you are, in all your glorious intensity, and it expands with you. If you have ever been made to feel like you were too much, subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your intensity is not a flaw, it's your power. It's time to own